Welcome everybody to the Watchlist, your virtual weekly TV guide right here on the Latiners Network, where we review all the shows and movies that get released on streaming each week, give you our best recommendations, and at the end of the show, let you know what's coming out so you too can create your very own watch list. It's been a couple weeks. We are back, of course, myself and the we part is the co-host, it's Senor Jaime, aka Chewy, who was out gallivanting in the streets of Nueva York, doing his thing,
NYC.
celebrating his a landmark birthday. Happy belated and all that good stuff. You've entered a different bracket of agedom. Sorry to hear that. I am
Okay.
years away from that landmark, so I'm very happy to announce that. Um, it is years,
Whatever.
technically speaking. So just an interesting week, Tweet, because out of we'll talk about a couple of shows that got released 2 weeks ago, not many, just one or two. Wasn't a whole lot that got released this week. Very minimal, right?
Thank God, no.
Right. Well, yeah, you went around anyway, so that was probably a good week for you to go on vacation and stuff. But it was an interesting week because it's a sad week, very sad week, and every so often in the show we do bring some sad news, a little in memoriam. In this case, usually say serve for shows that got canceled and all that, but it's sad news for different reasons because this memoriam is dedicated to a lot of shows that came and went, a lot of series that came and went. Shows like Drops of God, for example, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Barry, Succession, and of course Ted Lasso. All these shows and a couple others, of course, they're no longer with us anymore. They have concluded their series, their arcs. So we're gonna touch upon some of these shows, the shows we may miss, maybe we won't miss. I know there's one I'm definitely gonna miss, and that's Ted Lasso. And we'll get to that momentarily. But yeah, I don't think we've seen this mass exodus in a long time. Not to mention shows. Well, last couple weeks, couple of HBO, the Plumber Show, and the one with was it Lover?
Well, that was a
Yeah,
limited
yeah,
series,
Love and
so
Murder and all. It was sort of drops like that. But I mean, it's no longer here. But those couple of shows were just okay. I don't want you to talk about those, to be honest with you. Not that they were terrible, but whatever. But yeah, many, we just talked about shit finales ending, right? Especially shows that we like and we've seen numerous times where the landing is not stuck, right? This is the deal, right? It's not how you start sometimes, it's how you finish. We've seen great shows with really shitty endings, good shows with good endings, but it's a difficult thing to do. And I always say I'm not looking for greatness in the final episode. I just want something satisfactory, right? It's going to end the show the proper way, right? We've seen, I'll keep tossing Game of Thrones because that's the obvious one, right? One of them anyway, that really failed to do that, for example, on a show that we love. A lot of people love. So there's a lot of them, dude. This is only a limited series too, but I did want to talk about this one because obviously it's a limited series, so it came and went, right? Now, we'll start with Drops of God, a show that we both really liked when it came out on Apple Plus, right? Show dealing with
yes, absolutely.
made we said at the time it made wine tasting interesting for a couple of guys like us who really aren't into wine. At least I'm not myself. Or a beer guy or liquor. But that being said, we have the father who's a wine expert, to keep it in lay terms, and who has an estranged daughter, which he passed. He had in his will, he had a huge inheritance, and she doesn't necessarily get any of it because she has to enter a contest with his best student. Stages of contest, a wine tasting along those lines, and the winner gets hundreds of millions of dollars worth of collection, money, etc., 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 prestige. And throughout this process, they develop relationships, and they find about there's more than meets the eye when it comes to these two seemingly unrelated individuals, right? And they learn the secrets and all that came about. So this show came, I really enjoyed this one coming in, and I really enjoyed it going out, to be honest with you. I really like this one a lot. Really engaging, interesting watch, particularly about a subject matter I knew very little about, and it made it interesting. But it wasn't just that. Obviously, it was just the issues with the contest and what's going on, and issues with the father and what's going on behind the scenes. I thought really enthralling. So Chewy, what do you think about this one? It's just worthy because this one season easy to go back and watch a season. It's just one people should
Mhm.
go back and watch on Apple Plus.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we both talked about how this show started, and it hooked us in right from the beginning, and it did us disappoint throughout. Give us the proper exposition, the proper flashback. There was obviously the contest, ongoing contest, and various tasks going on. Um, but it was a compelling story, right? I don't want to get too much into spoilers
No, no, of course not.
without ruining the premise and what led to this contest, but it was just you were in it, from beginning to end, and I think I ended well and put a nice bow on the story overall without getting too tropey or making it convenient and whatnot.
Right, yeah, it had a good, satisfactory ending and a very good series. One I highly recommend this one. This is really good. Now, a
Mhm.
surprise show. People may not even have heard about this show, but check it out.
Cool.
It's really good. But let's get into the true series finales. Right, we had three shows I'm going to focus on. So Session, I wasn't a show was highly as many people were. But it did end well, and I'll leave that as far as the conversation goes. Not one I really want to get into because it's not one that whatever.
Mhm.
Everybody talked about the show on here anyway.
No,
Um,
it's a good show, good ending,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
It had a good ending. Again, I don't want to take anything away from it, so absolutely no doubt. But one here, let's talk about Barry real quick. Won't spend too much time on these, but Barry is one 4 season finally ended. Of course, we all know David Spade. Oh my God, no, I forgot the name actor. Is that not David Spade? David Hayter.
oh,
There we go.
the Barry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Either way, but yeah, he's an assassin. What ex-military turned assassin, all that. Very cool.
Can't remember his name now.
No, I want to say David Spade. I don't know. Whatever.
That's not David
It's not.
Spade.
It's not. It's
Not
escaping me.
David Spade, baby.
I'll look it up in a second. But either way, he's the assassin. Turned actor. Trying to change his life and all that. We both really liked this show. Chewy. So your thoughts? I finally came to a conclusion. Episode 4. Episode season 4. We knew the comeuppance was gonna be had, and we did get comeuppance for the most part. So Chewy, your thoughts on the ending?
No, man, this was a outstanding show. This last season, I can think brought everything together, was able to weave together the story, um, and make it in a surprising ending way, right? Which it was a little bit shocking, to say the least, right? But not outside the realm of possibility, right? Where again, we can't talk too much without ruining the show, but I mean, it ended great. The direction, the production was outstanding. Good to see Henry Winkler eat again.
True. The Fonz got to
uh,
eat.
yeah, yeah, and even the big time jump in this season was what made sense, right? And brought everything together. And subsequently, we ended with a time jump a little bit at the end,
Sure.
with
Yeah.
Barry's son.
Sure.
But I like the story that it told, and I think at the end of the day, obviously this is a story about many different things, about redemption, about changing who you are. Obviously, he was a army marine veteran, army veteran. I can't remember which service he was in, but he was not a good guy. I mean, he became a contract killer, but at the end, without giving too much away, it kind of showed how perception and as related to the media influence one's
Mm-hmm.
legacy, to the people around him, and then obviously to his family members. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely is one that I like the ending. That was not a great
Mm.
ending. It was a good ending. It was a good season, really good season, right? It was more not as funny as the scene in the past, but it kind of ramped up the tension because it's wrapping up in a certain way. So I get why they were trying to do it and why it went that direction,
Yeah.
right? It needed to, and it's
Mhm.
really good. But yeah, listen, right. Bill Hader is the guy's name. Sorry.
And
Um,
he directed both of these episodes
yeah,
himself, so you can see his style and how he's grown as a director,
yeah, absolutely.
in the shots that he took and the story that was portrayed.
No, really. I mean, it's one of those where yeah, about self-realization. And I like the theme, right? 'Cause there's about main characters in the show for the most part,
Yeah.
and those who came to grips of who they are tend to kind of bypass the comeuppance you figured they would receive, and those who did not ended up exactly what they should have ended up with what is this guy Hank, last name Hank with no hope,
The whole
right?
thing.
Who is
Poor,
amazing in the
poor
show.
Cristobal,
The
dude.
Chris,
Putting the
he's
brothers down, dude. Come on, man. That was shady.
he's one of my favorite characters in
But
the
it was
show.
powerful and it was sad and it was like
Yeah.
you felt so bad. I mean, at that moment when that
Yeah,
happened, I was
exactly. But he refused to admit. So those who didn't kind of got it in the end. All this, but it's really
like,
well put.
yeah,
Yeah, really
yeah.
well put together. But because finish up, people are lying to themselves. Right, the show really focused on right with Barry thinking he was good, or even his wife, or whatever, believing because she even the beginning making up the story how her original marriage went, and then who she really was inside. It was like Henry Winkler's the Fonz lying to himself. They're all lying to themselves, and again, facing that truth is what determined their fate at the end of the day. So very good show. I
Mm.
like that how that one wrapped up. Um, The other one here, Mrs. Maisel, ended up its 5 season run. A show we've been a big fan of, very comedic show. Brosnan, the main character, she's wonderful. Susan is fantastic. Susie, anyway. So this ended its 5 year run. Finally, Chewy. And what do you think about the finale itself, just the series, and the final season?
I mean, as a whole, this was one of my favorite shows and comedies around for a while. And it was great from the beginning. It focused on her wanting to be this bigger than life comedian, or trying to strive to be a comedian and successful. And we got introduced to her family, her father. I found it was quite a character in itself. So overall, I love this show. Now, my only issue is I don't like how they did this last season.
Ooh, okay.
It was look, I don't know how quite to say it. It was all over the map, right? And I don't I honestly I hate I actually I'll say it. I hated how they did this last season with the
Wow.
constant jumping back, jumping
Okay.
forward, going in the middle, going to the end. It was literally, I don't know why they went this direction. It was all over the place. It was jarring. It was not cohesive. To me, it just detracted from her story, which was how does she become the marvelous Mrs. Maisel? This is what all this is about,
Sure.
and that's why I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to focus on her comedy, right, and her getting better, and how she crafted her act and her material, right? But this season, it was just jumping to 73, jumping to 88, jumping to 80, going to 2000s. I mean, it was, if they could have done it in a way that made sense with the story, fine. But it was like every episode, it was like going to one place to another, and from the husband in jail to go. I mean, it was just, I hated that. I honestly
Okay.
hated it.
Wow.
Okay, that being said, if I can take that piece out, and what her story was, where we see her out in the snow after the Danny Bruce finale from last season at the
Mm-hmm.
was it at the Met or
I forget.
wherever it was.
Apollo, maybe. I don't know. No, it
Yes,
wasn't. It
it was
wasn't
somewhere in New
Apollo.
York,
But
right?
yeah, either way, yeah.
Yeah, and to get the writer to be on that show, and then trying to get to get her shot, and that was the shot that really launched her career. That's why I wanted this story and what I wanted to see. Right, this other stuff just kind of detracted with her kids in the future and all that. It was just all over the map.
Well,
Um, but both you may have a different opinion. That's
mhm.
just me.
No, no,
I
no,
just didn't like that. I
no.
just didn't.
Listen, I get it. Hey, look.
Because every episode it was going to a different era, different time. Right now, I don't now at the end when they did that. No, that made sense because you're at the end, right? You want to see where she's at, right?
Mhm.
Or if they progress those flash forwards sequentially throughout the season, that's a different story. But it was just going back and forth, back and forth. One episode with her mom in 73 and how where she ended up and from where she was. Obviously, dad had passed away at that point. The husband ended up in jail, and then they go back and explain that. But it was just it was a little disjointed. But the
Okay.
acting and the writing
No, I
was still
got you.
great.
I got. Yeah, I.
The one thing also was which I didn't like. I mean, I liked this short, but it didn't belong, or they didn't do their job enough to explain the whole debacle with Lenny Bruce at the end, right? Because we see him at the beginning of the season where he's going on the West Coast, he's on the plane, right? And he gives her those final words of advice, right?
Mhm.
And then we see him at the end, right? And which I just learned this
He
recently.
passed away, didn't
Every
he?
line that Lenny Bruce in his stand-up was word for word
Hmm.
what he had done in real life at each one of those shows. And even that last show that they showed in San Francisco in
Okay.
'65, right? Was verbatim his act, his words. They didn't change a single thing. That's what he did,
Yeah.
right? We subsequently learned that they didn't talk about it in the show. They left it out, but a year later he
He
died
died,
after that
right?
show in
Very
San
shortly after that.
Francisco.
Yeah.
And that was one of his last shows ever,
Hmm.
right? But to see him to be where he was at, and maybe they were trying to juxtapose that his fall to the rise of Mrs. Maisel at the end, right? I mean, that's the only reason you show that and showcase that piece right
Sure.
before on that very last episode. But overall, I think it ended because we got to see the end where we got to see what launched her career essentially, and when she decided to take that chance, right?
No,
She
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
given it, and
yeah.
she took it,
Well, and she took
and
it.
like that line is like,
That happened
yeah,
as just like she had started a career the same way, right? Taking the bull by the horns, if you will, right? Even she talked about
yeah,
in
exactly.
the 4 minutes, right? Which is a really cool segment, great segment. That 4 minutes was great,
Yes. Oh, that was great. That
fantastic,
was great.
really good setup. That really worked. So that bit that there was a big payoff with that, right? But yeah, I like I said, I disagree with you in terms of I kind of liked that because I liked the unconventionalness of them telling the story in this way, where normally, right, you get a show, it goes through the motions. Let's assume Mrs. Maisel, right? Whatever. Take the show for example, and it gets to the
But
point.
but
Oh, go ahead.
yes, but here's the thing, because by doing that, you so this whole thing, we don't know if she's gonna make it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could assume she is. It's called Martin's business, but you don't know, right? Because you're telling the story. You're starting from basically at one of these little hole in the wall bars, doing stand up, getting arrested, getting introduced to Lenny Bruce, but not being able to break through, not being able to break through.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do right after the first episode? You show her at an interview with 60 Minutes in 1980, talk
That
about all these husbands and
she's
all this stuff.
successful, right? Of course,
Yeah,
which I didn't mind that because
and
I
so
expected her.
you already ruined the payoff by doing that. You did. You absolutely did. You
Well,
ruined it
I'll put it this
because
way.
you've already said she's altered. She's making plans in Australia and all these places. So you've already ruined the story. You've already here's behind the curtain. Okay, now but so it takes away from the story itself when you kind of go to give away the ending at the first episode of the last season. You do. You should. It's one thing to tell interlace these flash forwards with how it's related to how she got there, but it doesn't. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, like for me, it did. I mean, I guess. I mean, ultimately for me, it's like we knew what she was. We knew she was going to become famous. Otherwise, if she didn't become famous at the end of the show, this would have been a terrible ending. It would have been a waste of time. It really
Well,
would have,
I
right?
mean, well, the level of what she gets taxed is up for debate. Right? It's one
Which
thing.
is fair,
What do you call it? What do you make it?
sure.
Right? Does she become a professional stand-up comic? Is that making it, or is it she has to be the number one person in the world? Is that making it? Right? Where she has, ultimately, 10 husbands, no more kids, and apparently estranged with Rosie for a while, right? Which was kind of thrown in there, and then they kind of explain that in
Yeah,
subsequent episodes at
yeah. They kind
some
of,
point.
they what do you call it? Rekindle the friendship or whatever because they make
Yeah.
amends, whatever. It's just for me. It worked for me. It really did. Just because for me, I knew she was gonna make it big. I always thought that was the point of the show, right? So that doesn't surprise. I didn't ruin it, right? If she didn't make it, I've been surprised, and I probably wouldn't like that ending. If she didn't make it, then what was the point of all this show, right? And what's the point? But for me, it worked. I mean, I'm not saying it was great, but the fact that at the end of the show, if you'd necessarily shown none of that, right? If you would have shown that in the end, because that would have been the natural thing to do, is like, okay, let's tell the story. She had her 4 minutes, and now we're gonna go through a montage of whatever she's doing now or
Well, no, I
whatever.
don't do the montage. You,
Oh, I
you
know, but
just save it
but
for that
I
flash
know.
forward at 2007, right, with her and Rosie. Even though you can still explain that they had to falling out because of what happened with the
I
husband
guess,
and the
but
deal
I don't. But I
with
don't
the
think it would
two.
have. That follow would just would have been like, whatever, just anecdotally. It's like, we had a follow, we're back. You don't get the feeling of what really happened between them and that.
But you explained the fallout because they did explain the fallout
They
because
did,
it
but,
happened
but
at
but
the
within the
church
show,
when he
not
arrested them.
yeah, but
So that
not
was all part of the story,
right, but not the
right?
last
That
episode.
wasn't.
I'm saying the last episode, right?
No,
Because
no, no. You don't say it for the last episode. No, no, no,
that's
no,
what
no, no.
and that's what I'm saying. Right? Normally you take okay, what happens now? Where are they now? Right? We like these characters of what Joe what happened when Joe ended up in jail and why and that
But we
and
don't know. We don't. That's the thing. We don't know. This is focused solely on her,
right.
right?
But
Because
I'm
we don't
saying
know what happened to the father.
at the end of the
We
show, it'd be
assume
nice
he
to know who those
died.
characters are. That's what I'm saying. It's nice to know where everyone's at,
They
right?
don't really they don't really mention what happened to the mother, right? We learned off screen she
Well,
died of cancer,
eventually she
right?
dies,
After I actually was
of
trying to help
course.
her
Mm-hmm.
with basically facilitating her dream of having this business, which was a loser, but she still gave her everything she wanted,
Of course.
right? The kids, kind of, sort of, maybe the brother, no,
Well, the
um,
kids were necessary. I'll
and
give you that.
yeah,
And that's fine with it. Yeah.
and so yeah, and and the fact that they don't mention what happened to Lenny Bruce, which was a big part of her life, is you know that's up for debate whether it's a good decision or not. Because we know what happened to him, but they don't even talk about it. They don't mention it. They see him at his last show,
Sure.
and that's it.
Sure. I mean,
And then
I agree
yeah,
that there's other ways they could have taken the show, and I don't disagree with that at all. I just, for me, I kind of like that unconventional story,
yeah,
giving us what you normally get in the end, telling us about it throughout, and then kind of expanding on it, and at the end bringing it back and focus. Because the end did focus on her, right? We can all agree
yeah,
that
yeah, that 4 minutes,
right, the last
that moment.
episode, even the whole episode is really about her, and then like the little epilogue, whatever at the end. Okay, this is where she's at now. Perfect, right?
Yeah,
So I was fine
yeah.
with it. I didn't mind that at all. I kind of like that. I'm not saying that should be the standard for all shows, but for this one, I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. But yeah, so it is what it is. Still a great show, and I think people. It's like these shows I'm talking about. These next 2 or 3 shows, the ones we talking about, the ones if you want to go back and watch 4 or 5 seasons or something.
It's worth going back, but the comedy was
Right, exactly.
stellar.
These are shows that are worth going back and seeing from the beginning if you're looking for something to watch. get vested in. It's Barry, Mrs. Mason, of course. Um, this last one here, that's Ted Lasso. Of course, it's getting to Ted Lasso, which is
Hello,
debatable.
goodbye.
Yeah, it's
See you,
debatable. What is the last
and
season?
you.
This is the last season or not? We don't know. All signs
I
point.
hope not. Yeah,
All signs point that it was the last season, or at least if nothing else, this the last. Even Sudeikis Hakaman said this, of course. Ted Lasso has said that this is his story is wrapped up, and it is right. There's no need to bring
yeah,
him back. Can you continue the show with spin-offs or whatever? Sure, but I think this version of the show is over, right?
yeah,
In terms of how we know it now, to me, one of my favorite shows on TV. We both expressed that the best comedy on TV. I don't think there's any debate about that. One of the best shows, top 2 or 3 shows, period. And this one I know
mhm.
people still don't watch it. They don't believe the hype. They don't want to get into it. This is the
They
show
should.
above all else. If you don't watch one show, go back and start. It's this one. If you got Apple Plus, this is the show to watch. This is the flagship show for a reason, and the hype is real. It's fantastic. But that being said, unlike the other shows, right? This show I thought was better. As much as I like Maison Barry, this is a better show overall. We have more to lose in this show. I like Game of Thrones. So that being said, Chewy, did this end good for you, given the level of show that this has been the last couple years?
Dude, this ended A plus, great,
Excuse
the
me.
great shows of all time level. That's how good the writing is, good the comedy was, is how good the story was. Every episode, I mean, we can talk about previous seasons, but this season, there was an emotional tug in every episode with all characters we love. Roy Kent, Ted Lasso, Nate, Coach Beard, the players,
Tart.
everybody. There was something going on. They made it socially relevant, but not in your face. They it was all focused on the team, and even at the very end, right, with the book, where it was originally called the Lasso Way, and he's like, no, 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 it was the Richmond way.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. It was not about him, but it was about him in a way.
No, for
But
sure.
I mean, there's so many the pop culture references were in every episode in your face, and you had to pay attention because they were quick. They were firing those quick, and you can easily miss a bunch of stuff. Right, from the whole Julie Andrews movies
Mm.
to shows to music, everything. But there was and the comedy was hilarious. The characters are unique. The situations were unique. The story is unique, right? Taking a B-level team to the epitome of competition, but doing it in a funny and enticing way for even for non-soccer fans, so football fans, really, honestly. Um, but every episode there was something. The one episode sticks out this season was with the whole "Hey Jude" moment, right?
That was phenomenal.
Right, with where he's jealous of the wife and what's going on, but then he's losing sight of his relationship with his son, and they have this, being in the Beatles song, and they kind of explain it. And that was like you can't help but cry at those moments, right? And feel and have the feels, right? And still be funny and still be great, and maintaining that every episode consistently to get to that end. And that end was, man. I didn't know they were gonna, I should have known they were gonna bring in Sound of Music because of the whole Julie Andrews
Hmm.
best movies ever thing. But how they set that up and they executed it was just like absolute comedy platinum. It's not gold, it's platinum, dude. It was that good, man. Hello, goodbye, take you and you and Danny Ramos. Adios.
I love Deborah Ramos.
I mean, there's just so much. There's too much. There's so many moments that stick out and lines and kudos to the writers, right? Because the writers are the characters where Kent, Coach Beard, Ted Lasso, Jason Sudeikis. These are all guys writing this show, writing this comedy, writing the story, and they just be able to execute it at such a high level consistently for the 3 years and bringing us to this very satisfying ending, right? Where Ted goes back home, right? He did what he had to do, and was time to go back to his son, right? And the ascension of Roy Kent to coach, right? With Coach Beard, who will stay because of love, and somewhat, even though it might have been a little bit rushed because it was last season, that um,
Yeah,
what's the word I'm looking for? Redemption,
redemption.
right? But that whole when I look at it, I thought it was rushed because we still have 13 episodes. It
Sure.
may appear to rush, maybe it was because this was the last season, so they had to bring closure to it. But once you see it in the context of at the end and everyone else's redemption, okay, it makes sense. He didn't go back and ended up being coach. Ended up going back to being who he was,
Right.
right? Which was a team manager and helping the players. Not necessarily, yeah, he was a wonder kid, but he was back where he was happy at one point of his life, and that's where he able to end up at some point. And that was for me. That made sense, and it was great. And now I don't think it was rushed. I think it was the right pace to get to that redemption point.
Yeah, that could have been right. I mean, I'm totally agreeing with you. And there's just some storylines were necessary. I thought in the finale, as far as the season's concerned, but minor stuff. But all in all, it was wonderful. It's Ted Lasso. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're right. It's just the humor, and it's always this. I mean, it takes these negative situations, right, and they put such a positive spin at the end of each situation, right, and there's just endearing moments and great moments throughout. Whether it be at the Hey Jude moment, even when what's her face confronts all the guys, all the rich white guys. Well, no, I think one was black. I don't know,
Mhm.
but her finally coming to grips of she doesn't even care anymore about ex-husband, right? And she
Yeah,
finally got over that, or
he accepted who she is and
exactly
what
in
she
her
is.
position. And then Jamie Tart and his situation with his father, that whole
Oh,
sequence,
that
and
was very tough redemption. I mean, from
phenomenal.
where he was to
Yeah,
where he ended up.
yeah,
Yeah.
phenomenal. It's well done. That relationship with Ray Kendall, so contentious early on. Now how they ended up, even after pursuing the same girl, I thought was great. Um,
Hmm.
Everything just worked, man. It worked
Well,
really
even
well.
him, who he, I mean, because we got a backstory. We got the backstory of him, right?
Yeah,
Where we retell his story with how he treated a player when he was young,
sure.
right, and not understanding and that went off, and so even that, I mean, even those moments where they open up and show that emotion and that turmoil within was you know a catharsis where watching the show and seeing these characters that we really love. Right, and seeing who they were as person, who and how they've grown and evolved, and even I think in the next to last episode they said that it wasn't ever about winning or losing, right? As the
Mm-hmm.
advice that Pep gave to Ted Lasso, it was about being a better version of
Yourself,
yourself
exactly.
at
Yeah.
the end,
This
right?
and
Regardless of what the results
the
were.
show knew what it was. It stuck to its guns, right, and it ended. It wrapped everything up perfectly. So much so that
Hmm.
I really, and this is my goal against conventional thought. I rather not see any more whatever version of Ted Lasso winning. I really don't, because everything wrapped up. There goes a good ending for everybody. Got their ending right, the moment, and I think continuing it just no. I'm good. I really am good. As much as I love
I
the
don't
show,
think they're going to see it. I think it's more wishful thinking on our part
I
because
mean,
you want to see,
wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't think Sudeikis comes back. That to me wouldn't make sense, and I think it would ruin what we set up. It really would. If we're not continue the show, by all means, fine. Focus on whoever, right? You can still do Ted Lasso without Ted Lasso, I guess. I don't think it'd be the same. I still watch it. I just rather not them even try it. It's a great ending. The story ended, wrapped up exactly the way it should. Let's move on. Great shows come and go. It is what it is, right? Some shows you wish can go on, but sometimes the longer they go, we've seen shows the longer they go, the worse they get. It's natural. It was so good. Great wrap up. Fantastic season. Fantastic series. Fantastic show. Absolute must watch, no doubt about it. And I really don't want to see anymore. I really don't. As much as I love this show, it's good. We're good. We got what we wanted. We got the ending we
look,
wanted.
man, they had a Lego stadium, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
come
that's
on,
true. I mean, come on, guys, gotta give it up.
Lego,
I
dude.
know you're a Lego guy, so I get it. But no, this was absolutely fantastic. Just so well done and sticking the landing. This was the only show I thought really nailed the landing. Don't stuck the landing. This one really nailed it.
This one
This
nailed
was a
it.
10, right? You did no wobbling week off the pommel horse. You know, other ones kind of wow. This was stuck it. But yeah, fantastic. Absolutely, it's great. I'm gonna miss this show. I really am gonna miss this show. Even if it comes back, it won't be the same. So I'll miss the version that we got in our last few years, no doubt about it. The
Mhm.
last show we'll talk about briefly that ended, not a series finale, not Citadel. That I thought maybe worth talking about. I don't know. 6 episode run on starring Rob Stark himself. I'm blanking on his name.
John Madden, Richard
Richard
Madden.
Madden, there you go, and Priyanka Jonas, I guess now. Spy thriller. We enjoyed it the first couple episodes when it dropped. A very fast paced, kind of your thriller action kind of show. And then the sixth season where we learned that I didn't know this, they were doing a spin off already. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
and a season
and
two.
season two got renewed, so obviously the show is doing well. I enjoyed the show. I like this one. It's not great, but I enjoyed it enough to work. It's because sixth episode. I think there's one I think might be worth guys going out and checking it out if you like into the spy genre and all that. My only real gripe, and I'm glad it's 6 episodes. It just concise, get to the point. the pacing was almost too fast at times, right? You can still slow it down. Let some of these scenes marinate because they're throwing so much at you and a lot of red herrings. Now I get in a show like this should do that, but sometimes they go back and flash back and forth, and it's like, whoa, what happened? What's going on? It's just slow it down. It was almost too fast, but it's better than being too slow. So I guess I'll take that lesser two evils. But I thought it was well. I thought I enjoyed this show, man, and I'm recommending the show. I did like it. Had a lot of fun with this one. Chew your thoughts.
No, man, I really like this show, man. It was in your face action with bam, 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 right? And the story, I think what I liked more about it was the twists and turns of the story,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
As you come, because obviously he's lost his memory, and as he finds out, you're kind of finding out, and he's remembering certain events, certain characters, and who they are and how they're related. And so I think that was probably the best part of the show was all the twists and turns because every episode there was something going on, right?
Yeah.
Even to at the very end, the ultimate turn, and you're like, oh crap, oh
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
and who they were and stuff. So I was like, okay, I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, yeah. So be mindful of that. But no, overall, I thought it was great, man. I
Cool.
mean, obviously, from an action standpoint, the production value was typical Amazon Prime level, right? Where
Yeah.
they invest in productions a la Lord of the Rings, or, Rings of Power and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. No,
And
yeah,
so
no
they're
doubt.
not shy they don't cut corners when it comes to put on a quality production, and obviously making sure that it's got the right story and the right writing behind it to keep the audience engaged and want to see more.
Plus Danny Tucci. Enough said with that. But
Absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
fun show. So that wraps up the show. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that kind of came to an end. So we have a nice, easy, clean slate of stuff, right? And a couple of shows, ongoing shows. So because there's a big week coming up, we'll mention that in a second. But a couple of shows from a couple weeks ago there's only two that I saw. I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts. The first one is Fubar. Of course, that is the Arnold Schwarzenegger's first foray into TV, if you will, his years of acting. Action thriller. He's a CIA agent about to retire. I don't think I'm about to retire. But that's his age, Jesus. And before he retires, he has one last mission. He has to save an agent who's been compromised, and the agent happens to be his daughter, of which, unbeknownst to him, she was also in the CIA, and unbeknownst to her, he no clue that he was in the CIA. So there's a lot of you didn't tell me that a lot of family conflict as a result. No one trusts each other, but they have to work together to resolve the conflict and issue with the terrorists and yada yada yada. Chewy, your thoughts on Fubar, which I hear is pretty popular.
So I think we mentioned this that when we saw the trailers, this was very akin to True Lies,
Similar,
right?
yes.
And as far as the with the action, the comedy, and then not trying to take itself too seriously. And I think it was spot on because this was more funny than anything else. Whatever the critics may say, other people, I actually like this show, and could see, what it was trying to do, and it wasn't trying to be an action show because the action was exaggerated, and especially with the shootouts and some of this stuff going on.
The
But
action,
I mean, but that's what I
the action
expected because
is
that's what you
terrible.
saw from True
Yeah,
Lies.
the action is
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
It's really bad.
yeah.
Let's be fair. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. But when I thought I made that True Lies comparison because it wasn't obviously this is about the relationship with Arnold and his daughter, right? Who I recognize it from Top
Top
Gun.
Gun.
I didn't realize until I
Yeah.
saw it. I was like, oh shit, it's what's the name from?
Yeah.
I can't remember what her call sign of Top Gun
I
was,
don't remember. But yes,
but
but she's eating. She's getting.
yeah,
Yeah. So good for her.
yeah, yeah, no, really, yeah, good for her. But I mean, even in the very first episode, she's stuck in the comedy, right? With the whole, the butters in the fridge,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
all these lines, it was just and him being at 65 or whatever how old this is and doing all these action scenes where he's jumping off the fire truck, going down the
Is
manhole,
he?
all these things. And like,
Is he?
well, obviously he's not, but still.
I'm just saying.
Um, so like I said, I enjoyed that. I thought it was enjoyable. I thought, the comedy was pretty good. And, action, whatever. I mean, I figured that because it wasn't meant to be an action show. It was just supposed to be a a, a a light satire on the whole action genre, right? Because these situations were utterly ridiculous,
Yeah,
right?
ridiculous. Yeah,
And what yeah, yeah. I mean, there are they're the father daughter. It's more that father daughter dynamic, right? And those two characters, they're there in one scene. They just stolen the package, right? That nuclear material that they're arguing, and what happens? They get stolen from there right there in the street. They're talking, and yeah, even the auxiliary characters are hilarious, right? His handler, the guy who's complete
The nerd, yeah.
nerd geek, into everything that we're into, the Legos, the movies, the Pokemons, all this stuff. I was like, oh, cool, man.
Oh,
And there's all Star Wars reference and the whole Grand Moff
we can
conversation.
relate, absolutely. I'll give you that.
So like I said, I was in good last. I enjoyed it, and let's see if they renewed it. It sounds like they're going to renew it for season two, but let's see what the final numbers say.
oh man, conflicted about this. Is a how can I put
But
this?
the Tom Arnold cameo was
Oh
hilarious.
no, no, listen. This moment, this is a terrible. And let me rephrase that. This is an entertaining disaster of a show. Right, I think it's the best way I can put it. Where on face value, this show is awful. I mean, the whole anything related to the action stuff, or even just the whole spy thriller, is really bad, right? However, there are funny moments, no doubt, right? And particularly with the daughter and the father, I like that aspect, and I wish the show would have been more of that. And then I think it was trying to toe a line between being something like an action thriller and a comedy. True Lies really knew how to balance that, because True Lies focus on one more than the other. True Lies was more of an action film than a comedy. It was an action film with comedic undertones. This one, I don't know, it
Oh
tried to
no,
be
there
both.
are no comedic undertones because I mean you get into like the
I mean, it
whole
was funny,
where
but
he basically used the
ultimately,
CI to spy on his wife and set up the
sure.
the, the Bill Paxton character. I mean that was
Right, and that was
funny.
great. But there was a good balance, right? But at the end, it knew what it wanted to be. It was still an action thriller at the end of the day,
Well,
right?
an exaggerated
Of
action
course,
movie
right.
because it was
But it's James
realistic.
Cameron. That's he does actions good as anybody.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
right. Well,
Just
right.
so we put that in context, it's not an
No, of
action
course.
movie because it's more because yeah, he's on
Of
the jump
course.
carrier. Come on, dude.
No, no,
Really? I
it's
mean,
ridiculous action, but it's cool action nonetheless, right?
ridiculous is right.
I mean, every
Yes.
action movie is kind of ridiculous. Let's be clear. Let's be honest. But
Okay.
whatever. It's just a low believability, which is accepted or not. Whatever. This isn't Fast 9 or Fast 10 or whatever. Any fast. All that being said, it would have been different to see this more of a focusing more on the home front than finding out what's going on, or maybe one knowing that the other, kind of look cat and mouse game, and then them trying to kind of navigate their family life, but each trying to hide from each other and the rest of the family. That could be kind of fun and more interesting. It was still entertaining though. I gotta admit, listen, my wife loved it. Your cousin staying over the house this last couple weeks, she loved it. They made me watch it. I may have not finished watching it if not for them. This cousin like her, they're streaming sluts, so they have to watch every episode, in one sitting almost. It felt like it. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm so conflicted. It's really a bad show, and I hate recommending bad shows. I really do, but I would understand the casual fan gets into it, and I think the numbers reflect that, right? The popularity and all of the show. From what I'm hearing, I don't have the specific numbers, but it's pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a season 2 announcement will tell me yes, yay or nay on that ultimately. Um, I guess if I guess I'll recommend. I'm so on the fence. I really am because I hate recommending it because this show sucks. You're right. If someone tells me this show sucks, I would not argue. You're right. Absolutely right. If someone tells me that. If someone says I enjoyed it, I get it. I get it. And it's very few
I
shows.
enjoy it.
It's very
I
few shows
enjoy it.
that I could make that argument on both sides, and this is one of them. So I'm in the middle. Check it out for yourselves. But whatever, you probably will be entertained more than I. But again, not it's just a bad show. But I don't know. I still laugh. I love Arnold. I'm an Arnold guy. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I grew up with the guy, so what it is, what it is. The other show I want to talk about is Platonic. On Platonic, let's say Platonic. Platonic on Platonic yeah, on Apple Plus. They released a couple episodes early on. Things they're up to 4 now. This one here with Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, who are no strangers to each other, of course, from Neighbors. Great chemistry. A story about Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne is a former attorney, gave up her life to raise a family, 3 kids, right? 3 kids, husband, an attorney, whatever the case. She's just kind of hit a midlife crisis, for lack of a better phrase, I guess, as far as what she's going through. And you got Seth Rogen, who's just got divorced, newly business owner. They used to be friends, long time, great friends, and her dislike of his wife kind of drove a wedge between them. Now that he's divorced, she kind of reached out back out to him, then rekindled their friendship. A disastrous friendship in the sense that they're just very self-destructive, and that works when you're 20 something. It don't work when you're in your 40s and 50s. So they're kind of finding each other again and just kind of breaking the rules and doing stuff they probably shouldn't be doing. I'm kind of enjoying this one. To be honest with you, it's not to the level of Shrinking, for example, or Ted Lasso, obviously, but it's definitely better than Big Door Prize, Hello Tomorrow, and High Desert, which are the last three
Oh,
comedies,
oh
which,
God, yeah,
yeah, which none of them really
yeah,
lived up to the billing. I think this one's a lot better than that. So I was laughing, and at the end of the day, what I say about comedies, right? If you laugh, it works, right? Um, it's missing kind of the heart component, like a shrinking and Ted Lasso have. It
yeah,
can still have that in
absolutely.
the end, but thus far as just pure comedy, I'm laughing, it's fun, it's entertaining, and I'm recommending it. Chewy?
No, agreed. This is more straight comedy. Yeah, obviously the two main characters, the Seth Rogen who's recently divorced, and the Rose Byrne, who's I guess maybe entering a midlife crisis, right? She
Sure.
was a lawyer, is a lawyer, right? You put that aside to raise a family, and so they come to where they meet up again, where she's at her kids are getting older. He's just trying to find the right relationship, and they were friends, disconnected because he got married. Now that he's divorced, they're connected again, and the antics that ensue when they get together.
Yeah, it's drugs, alcohol, shenanigans. And I like the fact that they're
Debauchery.
not going down. It doesn't seem like, I don't think they are going down what you would typically might think will happen. They're gonna like each other and hook up. No, right?
No, 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 it's
They're
nothing
not
like
going.
that.
This is touching none of, which is great. I don't want that in there, right? This is just, you're just friends. They know what they are. They were friends a long time ago. It's not so that's what I like about it, because then I don't know where this is going. Otherwise, I can see the temptation then saying, well, they're gonna hook up, and the husband's jealous, and the husband
Yeah,
probably will be jealous because he's hanging out with a guy. But there's no reason for him to be jealous. That ultimately they're just complete friends of nothing, no ulterior motive. So, but I do like that. I do like that part of the show and all that. But it's good. It's entertaining. This is a good watch on Apple Plus. Not a home run,
mhm,
but a solid show. And considering what they've given us lately with comedies, this is definitely a huge step up for them. There's other
absolutely.
shows on Apple we like, and we'll talk about one in a couple of weeks when that ends. Um, so that was last week. This week, like I said, really only one show, to be honest with you, that I even bothered to
Yeah.
try to watch, and that's The Days. This is this week's release on Netflix. It's actually a very light week. This last couple weeks is dedicated to the show's ending. So The Days is a Japanese show, true story. I think it's 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, 2011. Oh, and yeah, so there's about almost like Chernobyl, a nuclear. I say meltdown. Might
Yeah,
not be
it's
the
the
right word.
tsunami
Yeah.
that flooded the nuclear power plant.
Right.
Um, and see the subsequent disaster that ensued. I think over you know many. I can't remember how long it took to finally get resolved, but basically the tsunami came in and basically just literally shut down the plant, and didn't no one knew what was going on inside the facility, right? Because if you don't cool it, you have thermonuclear meltdown
Right.
essentially.
Exactly. Which is,
Uh,
I think, it's what happened anyway for a small part. Um. Yeah, I gave up on the show. I tried. I gave it a couple episodes.
no, it's very dry. It's
Thank you.
very
That's
dry.
exactly the word I was going to use. It's just dry. There's a reason why you dramatize these kind of shows, right? Because you want to get invested in some characters or whatever. Maybe focus on the family and miss their situation. Like Chernobyl would be the obvious choice, right? Focusing some of the heads up, right? We do a compelling story around it. The circumstances of the nuclear event that happened there. It was so interesting, engaging. This one is just kind of going through the motions, right? Focusing on the government part of it, people, the electrical company that's involved, and the people inside the facility. But
Yeah,
didn't really focus on
it's
anything at
very
all.
it's
There's no
yeah,
drama. It's no drama
it's
here, right?
it's paint by numbers, but very, very dry, and it's not very good. I
It's
mean, it's
not.
not
No.
interesting. It's not giving you something to grip onto, and so yeah, you're right. If you're gonna do these, you have to dramatize in some
Of
fashion
course,
because you
it's
have to care about
yeah.
something. If you want to just retell it, then just make it a documentary and call it a day,
Exactly. And a documentary probably would have been more interesting than this show, right?
or maybe a docudrama, maybe, but
Maybe,
not
maybe.
not what we're getting.
Yeah, it's just God. It's just we have to be invested in the characters. That's what creates stakes, right? It's not the situation. Situations are the stakes of a result of the situation. So yeah, if we have a nuclear situation, fine, but who is it affecting, right? We don't know. They don't really focus. You just focus on the act. It just didn't work. It really didn't. So that's a big dud, which is a kind of shame because I was just interested in the subject matter. But that was all for this. Like I said, it's an incredibly light week, a rare light week. Good time for Chewy to go on vacation and all that. But that being said, that's about to change because here we go with next week's shows, and there's a lot of them. All kinds of goodies coming out starting tonight,
And
actually.
I
which Chewy forgot to mention to me, but I was able to remember this one, and that
No, I
is
didn't. It was on the list.
it was not. And that is The Idol. It was on the list, but
Who?
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Either way, it
Uh,
wasn't, but it doesn't matter.
uh,
I knew it was coming out. I was like, oh, what about The Idol? So The Idol comes out tonight on HBO
uh,
Max. It seems like it's a pop star, or I guess former music star, trying to make it again or reinvent himself. Or this, I don't know, what is something like that? Something.
oh no, I had no interest in
No,
that.
I
It's
know.
with Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah,
Yeah,
normally
I
I
was like,
wouldn't. Yeah, normally I wouldn't. However, it's a Sunday night show. Usually HBO on Sunday night more times than not work. Right. This would have taken place taking the place of White House Plumbers or even the other one on Thursday. I probably would have skipped it. I'll give it a benefit of the doubt because they're putting it in the prime time slot. HBO doesn't fuck around with that slot, the 9 o'clock slot. They don't. So I'll give it a chance just because of that. Maybe they'll drop an episode. I'll watch one. If it sucks, I don't want to watch it, but at least I'll give it a shot. But that does come out tonight, and that's The Idol. Uh,
yeah.
I put six
No,
four.
tonight also.
Oh, this tonight. I'm
Tonight
sorry.
on
Okay.
TNT, the Lazarus Project.
Yeah, this was some kind of sci-fi show, obviously. Um,
Sci-fi time travel. So okay, I'm in.
I'm all in for that. This TNT, and I'm debating whether I watch or not. I don't know. I really am. So maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I don't. I don't know. To be honest with you, but whatever. TNT sucks. Let's be honest. We've already talked about TNT, and that's for a reason. Let's be clear. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they don't have that much. Anyway.
Maybe it's
They
good.
didn't. They didn't. No Piercer, which I'm still bummed about. I'm still
No,
waiting for the end of that. But
agree. Right. So maybe it's Snowpiercer. Maybe. Let's find out. But that one does come out tonight. On the 6th, we got I think it's Tuesday, docu series, Ordinary Men on Netflix.
correct.
I think it's the Forgotten.
No, it's a movie. It's not a
Oh, it's a
series.
movie. Oh, I apologize. Anyway, okay,
Yeah, it's a movie. Yeah.
gotcha. I think focus on it's a Holocaust and I guess some of the people involved in that, Germans, etc., etc. I'm not sure if it's a comeuppance kind of thing. I haven't
No,
seen it.
no, no. Basically, it's a story about how everyday people could let that happen. Essentially,
Oh, gotcha.
when
Okay.
no one stood up.
Okay.
All this was going on. Everybody knew what was going on, and nobody person we weren't necessarily SS or Nazis. They were just normal, everyday Germans. Did nothing. They kind of I don't say let it happen, but they didn't. They couldn't do anything or
Right.
refused to do anything to stop it or stand up against it. Right
Gotcha.
in the
Okay.
face of the evil.
I think
That's what it
I
is.
love the subject matter, so I'll probably check that one out. I guess on Tuesday on the 6th. On Wednesday, I thought I'll toss this in. I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch it. But speaking of Arnold himself, we got a documentary on Arnold docu series, chronicling his life. Grew up with the guy. I might check this one out. And then on the 8th, I believe is Thursday, we got one show I'm very excited about. Never Have I Ever on Netflix. The last season,
Mhm.
speaking of finales, the last season, Stick the Landing. Great show. I don't think it's underrated because it gave it 4 seasons. Netflix did, and they wouldn't do it just for any show. But not sure a lot of people talk about. At least here talk about. Fantastic comedy, great show. You guys should check it out. Peacock.
Johnny Mac, dude. Johnny Mac.
Johnny Mac. I love Johnny Mac. Based on a true story, and not Never Have Ever, but the name of the show, and that's on Peacock, based on a true story. Kylie, what's her face?
Coco,
Coco.
Cuckoo,
I don't know what
Coco,
her name is.
whatever.
Big Bang Theory girl,
Big Bang Theory.
who's
Yeah.
incredibly overrated, but whatever. That being said, this is kind of got a little murder and the building kind of vibes. I guess it's kind of where her and her husband, I believe, are big into murder mysteries or whatever the case is, and I guess they're trying to do a podcast, maybe. I guess with someone who you think.
I haven't seen the trailer. This is kind of the titles. I would claim to check it out, but I really haven't seen anything
Yeah, I
about
saw a
this show.
trailer. It looks like they're investigating someone who think might be a killer just so they can get him to do a show with them. Kind of billing. So I don't know. Looks interesting. We'll check that one out. And on Friday we got Apple Plus. Okay, I'm excited because of that. We got Tom Holland, Spider-Man coming back into drama, The Crowded Room. I think this might be a limited series. I don't know. Amanda Seyfried's on this one as well. He's a young kid, Holland is, who I guess is accused of murder. I guess. Well, I don't know. He's got mental health issues, and they're trying to figure out,
Mhm.
if he was aware of what he did or not in terms of killing his parents. I think, or foster parents. Um, and then we get Tex-Mex Motors on that Friday as well. Yeah, it's a little kind of reality show, a la where's that with the motorcycles, American Choppers, right? Is that
Oh, American Chopper or I mean, the Motor Trend Network or Motor Network, whatever,
yeah?
has a shit ton of these,
It's a
these
bunch
car
of them.
building,
Hmm.
that, Gas Monkey Garage from Discovery and something like that. So I that's what I envisioned this when this
Well,
Netflix
yeah,
show. But it's like I said,
they're in Mexico where they can get. Like I saw a trailer of it, and
I didn't.
they refurbish cars, right? Old classic cars, which they can get. It's very difficult to find here, so they're in Mexico because it's easier to find those kind of cars there, or near Mexico, and they get it transported up here, and they can fix them up, whatever, and sell them, whatever the case is. So it's one of those shows. It's very reality based. It looks interesting. I'll try to check it out.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of stuff. There's 8 things coming out. There's a lot of stuff in there. So we'll jump on these kind of back on a regular schedule next week, of course, and let you know what you guys should watch these shows on that. That being said, yeah, so there we go. And I forgot to mention a quick in memoriam to Chewie's youth. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's long since been gone. But that being said, again, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell here every Sunday, letting you know what you guys could watch, what's out there. Don't ever say nothing to watch. That's nonsense. There's always something to watch, even in a week
not
like
this
this.
week. Not
There's
this
still a lot
week.
of stuff to watch. A lot of older shows we talk about all the time, right? There's always something to be watched and to be queued up. So that being said, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.